Boy, oh boy, do we got a good one today. Another huge L for atheists, as if believing nothing turned into everything isn't a big enough L in and of itself. We have breaking news. One of the most prominent, well-known atheists in the world-renowned atheist, Stephen Hawking. It turns out he's a pedophile rapist that molested children, had orgies with children on Epstein's island. So it's just unbelievable. I mean, where do we even start with this? So, I mean, he's literally a pedophile, Stephen Hawking. He's lost all credibility. You can't defend a pedophile. He's literally disgusting. He had an orgy with children on Jeffrey Epstein's island. He's been exposed. He's lost entirely all credibility. So let's get into it a little bit. Stephen Hawking, this is the same guy that said one of the dumbest quotes that I've ever heard in my life. He said, this is his exact quote, "Because a law like gravity exists, the universe can and will create itself." That makes no sense whatsoever. It has no correlation. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You know what gravity is? This is gravity. It's the law of gravity. You have a gravitational pull, an object, it falls down. That's gravity. What in the world does that have anything to do with creation? Gravity doesn't create anything. It's just a law of the universe. It makes no sense whatsoever. Because a law like gravity exists, the universe can and will create itself. That's one of the dumbest quotes I've ever heard. So, but that's Stephen Hawking for you. This is like the king. This is the atheist. This is one of the atheists. This is your king, this pedophile? Pathetic. So, he literally states that gravity, which has nothing to do with creation, is certainly not intelligent design. There's no correlation whatsoever. So, I don't even know why he makes that statement. But then, even the last part of his statement, it means the universe can and will create itself. The universe cannot create it. Nothing can create itself. Everything it's derived from something. There has an origin. You're derived from your parents. Your parents are derived from their parents, etc. Everything, there's an origin. Basically, everything was created. The only thing that was not created, that is intelligently designed, was God himself, because God is the uncreated creator. He's the ultimate creator, and he's infinite, he's eternal. So he created everything, and then everything after that, anything that's a creation, anything that's a design intelligently, obviously has an intelligent designer. This is like an irrefutable analogy, but let's say, well, irrefutable to anyone using common sense and logic and basic reasoning. Let's say you're in the woods and you find a book in the woods, 185 pages, language, whatever. Are you going to assume that that book created itself? You're not if you're using 2% of your brain. You're not going to assume the intelligently designed and created book randomly fell out of the tree. You would be really dumb to think that. But that's what the atheists think. With the creation of the whole entire world. Not only do they think it randomly happened, they think it all derived from nothing. That is by far the dumbest logic ever, and there's zero proof of it. How do I know this? Because you cannot give one example of something that derived from nothing. Everything there is came from something else. Everything that's designed was designed by a designer. You're not going to have this car I'm sitting in naturally, it can and will create itself. That's what this pedophile thinks. It's not going to happen. That's illogical. The burden of proof is on you to find one example of nothing turning into something. There's zero examples. There's zero proof. Meanwhile, I can literally look all around me. Oh, that mailbox created. That car created. That house created. This car created. The phone created. Everything that is complex is created by a creator. We have millions of examples. I'm just asking atheists to provide one example, just one, of an intelligently designed city, a phone, a book, anything. Give me one example of anything that randomly created itself by chance. The burden of proof is on you to prove that that illogical statement is not logical. Me, I don't have burden of proof of anything. We have proof all around us of creation being created by a creator. Intelligently designed things having an intelligent designer. There's no proof anywhere in existence in the history of this world that you can point to a super complex design thing that randomly happened by chance. That is delusional by definition, because you're believing in something that has no basis in reality. And that is what evolution and the Big Bang and the theory of everything, that's what that is. So you have this clown that people look up to. And now don't try and play the, oh, I never really believed in Stephen Hawking anyway. Don't try and pull that card now. You supported Stephen Hawking. If you're atheists, he was on your side. He was one of the world-renowned atheists, along with Richard Dawkins, Darwin, all these old clowns. They're probably pedophiles too. There's a correlation with not following Jesus and being a pedophile. And I'll bring this up before people try and bring it up, because I can easily dismantle this ignorant, dumb argument very easily. Speaking of pedophiles, they're going to bring up, well, what about Catholic priests? The priests, they molest children, so you have pedophiles in your belief system also. Oh my gosh, bro. Let me explain to you why that is such a stupid, ignorant statement. Because saying that someone who claims to follow God but disobeys God somehow disproves God, that is just dumb. That is literally just dumb. Like even Andrew Tate. Matter of fact, I'm gonna expose Andrew Tate, because he converted to Islam. And you know the reason he converted to Islam? You can't make this up, bro. Oh my gosh, man. He converted to Islam. His whole entire reasoning was because complaining that Christians don't follow the book. Christians don't practice what they preach. That applies to him more than anyone. This hypocrite, literally, he claimed to be Christian, but he didn't follow anything. And his whole entire reasoning for leaving Christianity was that people don't follow the book. And he himself didn't follow the book the most. So it's like a walking contradiction. It's a walking hypocrite. So you leave the religion not based on God and what God teaches, based on the followers that are not even obeying God, including yourself. Dude, do you not understand how stupid that is? And then now he's saying, oh yeah, Islam, we actually follow our religion. After becoming Islam, he literally made a video with a dog. in Islam, dogs are haram. And it's just like, dude, oh my goodness, pride. He's one of the most prideful people ever. Even in Islam, it says pride isn't good. So he doesn't follow Islam either. But the significance is he literally judges the followers of Jesus. Guess what? Anyone with half of a brain, you don't look at the followers of said standard of a religion. You look at the standard. Why in the world would you look at people who are not even obeying God to try and discredit God? If anything, that literally proves God correct even more. Because if a Catholic priest molests a child or whatever, guess what? He's not obeying God. That proves our point even more. And Jesus himself literally said, you know what he said about these pedophiles and these people that hurt children? He said they should have a rope tied around their neck with a rock tied to it and thrown to the bottom of the ocean. Anyone who is to hurt these little children. That's what he said. So that applies to the Catholic priests that are pedophile and molesting children. Anyone harming children, they are not obeying God. God very clearly says, do not hurt children, and you should be thrown to the bottom of the ocean if you do. So it's insane how people can sit here and judge God and criticize God and take the blame out on God as being a false. Like they're literally trying to say that Jesus is discredited by his followers that are not obeying him. What sense does that make? That literally proves Jesus correct even more, because the significance of a standard, and the perfect standard, which is Jesus Christ, is we have a standard to go by. Atheists have no standard to go by. We have Jesus as the standard. So we know right from wrong. We know that anyone molesting children are wrong. Where do atheists get their morality from? This pedophile, the rapist creep, Stephen Hawkins? Because that's what they were saying in the past. But I've noticed a trend with scientists and all this atheism. They just adjust their views as time goes on. It's always changing. And they somehow think that's a good thing. Oh, we're just getting closer to the truth. You had different viewpoints that were the complete opposite. How is that getting closer to the truth? You're just changing things around. They used to think the sun revolved around the earth or something like that. Now they think the earth rolls around the sun. They change things all the time. You know what remains consistent? The word of God, which also happens to be the most provable, legitimate writing in ancient history. It's the most verifiable writing with the most validity. It's the most valid documentation of history and recording of history out of any ancient writing that exists. Google it yourself. Even I thought, when I saw this, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. There's no way. Like this has to be like a bias study. This has to be like a Christian bias site or something like that. It is verifiable with a simple Google search. Type in ancient manuscripts, or type in ancient literature with the most manuscripts. The New Testament of the Bible, which is the story of Jesus, it's going to pop up. And the significance, the whole entire way we know about history is through writings, is through manuscripts. There was no cameras back then. There was no phones back then. Every single thing we know about history is because of writings and word of mouth. It's people, it's eyewitnesses and writings about what they saw. That's how we know anything about history, is the writings and then archaeological findings, both of which we have way more proof for Jesus than any of this evolution, Big Bang nonsense that these atheist pedophiles like Stephen Hawking believe in. Like I said, even I thought that was like, oh, there's no way the New Testament is the most verifiable record of history ever. Type it in, research it, it's easily verifiable. The New Testament is the most valid recording of history ever. Why? Because it has the most manuscripts, and it's the earliest to the event that happened. Like it's like Jesus' death and resurrection happened in the early AD, 60 AD, in between 60 AD and 100 AD. We have the first manuscripts writing about Jesus, documenting what happened. That is literally more provable and more evidence and has more validity behind it than all of these other ancient historical figures. Plato, Aristotle, Caesar Augustus, all these other historical figures which they happen to teach about in school, they are all less provable than the New Testament, which is about Jesus Christ. So literally, I mean, it's just like they're teaching in school about these historical figures that have less evidence and less valid proof than Jesus. I mean, it's unbelievable. So you have atheists, it's like, okay, where do you get your morality from? It's not Stephen Hawking. I hope not. He's lost all credibility. And the reason you can't say, if you're atheist, oh, well, you're just generalizing all atheists. That's the same as saying, isn't that the same as saying the priest was a pedophile, so you generalize all Christians or whatever? No, because we're the ones with the standard. We have the morality standard of Jesus, so we know right from wrong. Atheists have no standard of morality. It's all just made up. It's all subjective. It's all just humans. If you have no objective standard of morality, where does morality come from? The individuals? Stalin? Mao? Hitler? They killed millions because they believed what you believe, is that there isn't an objective standard and they could just do whatever they think is right. Morality cannot come from individuals. That is just narcissistic and arrogant to even assume. You think you know more than God? You think you have the standard of morality? Some random nobody? And then when you look at the non-random nobodies, the world-renowned famous atheists, it turns out they're pedophiles. You went to Epstein's Island, an orgy with children. That is disgusting. You can no longer use Stephen Hawking for anything. I don't care how intelligent he is. I don't care what his degree was. I don't care about his stupid theories. If you molest and rape children and you're a pedophile, you lose all credibility, you absolute disgraceful creeps. And then it's like, oh yeah, morality. Atheists can just come up with their own morality. No, they can. Look what just happened with Stephen Hawking. Look at Hollywood. Do you think Hollywood is Christian or atheist? They're even worse than atheists. They're satanic. They have Freemasonry and satanic occultism. That's what they're a part of. Why do you think they always do this? It's one-eye symbolism. Why do you think they always do this? The triangle. They do the triangle and the one-eye symbolism. They worship the devil. All the pedophiles that are going to be announced on Epstein's Island, in addition to this Stephen Hawking creep, They're all atheists. They don't believe in Jesus. That's not a coincidence. It's because you have no morality in atheism. Where do you get your morality from? Where? Is it Hitler? Is it Stalin? Is it Mao? Like, dude, and then you have just so many ignorant people in atheism. They'll say Hitler was Christian. Bro, that's the dumbest thing I've ever, oh my gosh. Hitler's mom was Catholic. And when Hitler was being raised, Hitler's mom literally wanted Hitler to become a preacher. Hitler's mom was trying to persuade and convince Hitler to become a preacher. He didn't, and then he went on to kill millions. Open your eyes. That literally even proves Jesus more correct, because he literally rejected Jesus. If he would have chose to follow Jesus and become a preacher, the whole world would have been different. Instead, he rejected God, he turned away from Jesus, and he went his own way and went on to massacre and kill millions of people due to his atheistic beliefs that he is doing the right thing, because he tried to create his own morality. That is atheism in a nutshell. You don't follow God, then you create your own morality. That's like the definition of narcissism and arrogance. And even atheism in and of itself, like agnostics, at least they're a little bit more respectable, because they at least have a more reasonable approach. They say, oh, well, I wasn't there in the beginning, so I don't know. I don't know if it's God or not God. I just don't know. Which even that really, I don't know, because I can't see it. Even that doesn't really make all that much sense, because you can't see your brain. You know, it's still real, right? You can't see Augustus Caesar or any historical figures that you believe in. They still existed, right? Yeah, so even agnostics are wrong. But atheists, think of the arrogance of atheism. Atheism is the belief that they know there's no God. Atheists will state, oh, I know there's no God. How much of an arrogant narcissist do you have to be to assume that you know anything of a long time ago? You don't know if there's no God. And like I just got done saying, we have more proof of God than not God, because Jesus is God and Jesus walked this earth. And I just got done telling you the New Testament historical record of Jesus, God, is the most verifiable writings in history. So there's literally more proof of God, Jesus, than there is of whatever theories these delusional atheists believe in. They have faith in man, flawed man. I want you to give me a person who is your standard of reality. Where do you get your morality from? Because every single human being is flawed. So if you get your morality from humans, you already lost this debate. You're flawed, because every single human's flawed. Nobody's perfect, except Jesus Christ, who is God. That's why he's perfect. He set the perfect standard. There is no historical figure, there is no current figure, there is no one in the history of the world who is better than Jesus. It's not even comparable. And so you have atheists who they can't get the morality from anyone, because science doesn't even explain morality. Science just explains the world and tries to explain the world. It doesn't have anything to do with morality, clearly, because Stephen Hawking, because he wasn't obeying Jesus, he wasn't believing in Jesus, he wasn't following Jesus. Instead, he went and followed Epstein to the island to go rape kids. This is your king? This is your, this is the world-renowned atheist? This is pathetic, dude. So Jesus is obviously the way, the truth, the life. The Bible is the standard of morality. I've never heard one person ever refute the teachings of Jesus, because they can't, because he's perfect. I've never seen anybody give one example, just one example, of nothing turning into something. Not only nothing turning into something, but also intelligently creating and designing itself into a complex design. That is 100% delusional by definition, because there's no examples of that in reality anywhere. We have more examples that prove and verify our belief than you have to verify and prove your belief. All you have is these scientists, which are clearly flawed. So atheists, it's just like Jesus is perfect even in Islam, for example. Islam's the second largest religion. So to me, it's just so obvious Christianity is the truth. It's obvious. Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. The second largest religion. Guess what? I'll let you in on a secret. The main leader of the whole entire religion, he's also a pedophile. He's literally also a pedophile. Muhammad, the last prophet of God, the chosen prophet of God, supposedly, he raped a 9-year-old girl. And this is not me. This isn't like Christians making this up. This is in their very own books. In their very own books. It says, Muhammad consummated the marriage when Aisha was 9 years old. She was still playing with dolls. 9 years old is not mature to have sex with in any reality that exists. But yet the leader of the entire religion, who not only did that, he also killed people. He's an incredibly immoral man. He raped a 9-year-old girl. He's literally a pedophile. And then even in their very own books, once again, Jesus is better than Muhammad. This is all verifiable if you just do the research. In the Quran, the Hadith, it says that Jesus is sinless. He's perfect. Muhammad was not sinless. Jesus was sinless. In their very own book. So I'm just like, bro, it blows my mind how people can just deny Jesus, dude. He's literally levels better than the supposed last prophet in their very own books. So I guess they just ignore that fact. But I mean, Muhammad, it's just like, dude. And then the problem, you have the more like the open-minded, the more reasonable Muslims, they'll be like, oh, that didn't happen. That's not in the book. She wasn't 9 years old. And then they find out, they discover like, oh crap, she was 9 years old. And then they leave that false fake religion because they don't want to support some disgusting pedophile. But then you have others who, they have so much ego and pride and they don't want to admit they're wrong. Like this one guy, Daniel Pikachu, whatever this Pokemon clown is. He was in a debate literally arguing for pedophilia. He was literally defending and trying to support and argue for 9-year-old girls and younger girls getting raped by 50-year-old men just to not denounce his religion, just to not admit he was wrong. Guess what? Like, you don't have to be Christian You don't have to even believe in God to understand that a 9-year-old is way too young to have sex. This should be common sense. But when you don't have God, that's when you can get deceived into these psychotic beliefs that it's okay to sleep with a child. That is disgusting. Absolutely unacceptable, inexcusable. All pedophiles should be buried under the prison. So come to Christ. If, dude, like just be real. Like me, I used to have sex with multiple women. And did I just keep having sex and just so I wouldn't have to admit I'm wrong and try and like justify it or something like that? No, I realized it was wrong and I repented and I changed. I admitted it was wrong. So do the same if you have just discovered that Muhammad's a pedophile based on your very own books, that he's 9 years old. She was 9 years old when he penetrated her, playing with dolls. That's disgusting. Stephen Hawking is disgusting. Hitler, Stalin, all these atheists are disgusting. And nobody can refute or debate against Jesus's teachings. If you want to pull the Andrew Tate ignorant route of, oh, well, the Christians don't follow him, that doesn't refute the teachings. That would be condemnable to the person who is disobedient towards God. You can say the individual, you can be like, oh, you're like a fake Christian. You don't even obey Jesus. You can say that, but you can't discredit Jesus. You can't. You can't blame God and Jesus for what his followers who are not obeying him do. That's illogical. That's dumb. That's not intelligent. So neither is believing nothing turned into everything. I mean, this creep had a whole movie made about him. The theory of everything. The darkness always comes to light. He is now exposed. All the other pedophiles who went to Epstein's Island, they're going to be exposed. None of them are Christian. None of them follow Jesus. So it makes sense why they're doing that. When you're filled with the Holy Spirit of God within you, you can't possibly want to molest children. You can't. It's not, dude, it is disgusting. There's no speck of desire or curiosity. Oh, you know, it's disgusting because you have the Spirit of God in you. You have the Holy Spirit, the discernment, the fruits of the Spirit. Like, you're not going to want to go out and be a pedophile because you have the Spirit of God in you that will convict you. These people have no conviction because they don't have God in their life. They just go to some party, rape children, and then come back out and teach this atheist evolution nonsense. And then people eat it up. Oh, he has a degree. He is really smart. He must be like right. Just because you're smart on one topic does not mean you're smart on everything. So a lot of these atheists, even if, oh, they're highly intelligent, they might be smart in one topic, but then will have not even read the Bible, and they'll be the biggest critics of it. What sense does that make? If someone is a genius in this topic, that is completely irrelevant to this topic. So when it comes to theology, when it comes to morality, I don't care how high their IQ is. They clearly are in the wrong. All forms of pedophilia are wrong. Christianity is the truth. I just told you, Jesus said to push like pedophiles to the bottom of the ocean with a rock tied around their neck. He doesn't support pedophiles. Atheism, they can't support nor deny it because you have no standard. You not only have no standard of morality, you believe nothing equals everything. You can't give me a single example of nothing turning into something. in reality, in tangible reality, you can't give me one example. I mean, it's just like, oh, it's hurting my brain even talking about this topic anymore, man. The fact that I have to sit here and be like, hey guys, maybe if a religion says that the main leader in the religion is a pedophile, rapist, maybe you shouldn't be a part of that religion with Islam. And then one of the other largest groups of people, which is atheists, they have no standard of morality at all. They believe nothing turned into everything magically. They think books can randomly write themselves because the universe is way more complex than a book. So if you don't think a book can create itself randomly in the woods, do not sit here and logically try to convince anyone that the universe itself did that, because it's 1,000 times more complex than the book. So it's just, you have atheists, it's just like you have like pedophiles within atheists. All the pedophiles on Hollywood, these satanic elites, they're all atheists. So you have pedophilia rampant within atheism. You have pedophilia rampant within Islam. Why are you not following Jesus? Like, dude, you can't not follow Jesus after this video, dude. Like, I'm just getting sober. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm gonna be able, I might be one of the greatest apologetics ever when this is all said and done, because I'm still learning. But it's just based off what I just said. You can't support atheism. How can you be a part of atheism when one of the leaders of atheism is exposed as a pedophile, so he loses all credibility, and all the satanic elites, like in Hollywood and whatever, that actually went to Epstein's Island that are pedophiles, they're all atheists also. None of them worship God. They literally do upside down crosses. They do all this satanic occultism, sacrifices, everything. Only God knows what goes on with all these rich elites. And it's obvious, it's provable because of Epstein's Island. It's all rich elites. So, I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable how people can still defend atheism. How they can still defend Islam after finding these things out. Like, it's just like, where do you get your morality from? That's one question I want answered. One, and nobody's going to be able to answer any of these. Send this to Richard Dawkins, send this to whoever you want. No atheist can give me an answer of how 0 plus 0 can equal 1. It's a mathematical analogy for nothing. 0 in mathematics is nothing. If you plug in 0 plus 0 in the calculator right now, you're going to get 0. If you do it 100 years from now, you're going to get 0. If you do it 1,000,000 years from now, you're going to get 0. Nothing will always be nothing. So analogically, comparative to reality itself, nothing, which is 0, nothing plus nothing, it's always going to be nothing. You can't get something from nothing, because nothing is the absence of something. So there's no logic at all in the statement and belief that the universe was once nothing and now it's everything it is. That is delusional. And I'm gonna make this final statement, and you can put my name at the end, the little dash, and then my name in quotes. This is my quote I made up, and it's irrefutable, just like this whole video. If there was ever nothing, there would never be something, because nothing cannot turn into something. Checkmate, this video's over. I want one example of a moral standard of an atheist. You're gonna fall flat on your face, because every human being is flawed. So you're not gonna be able to find a standard of an atheist that's your moral standard. You can't point to any subjective standard, because then that means subjective standard in and of itself would be acceptable. But that can't be acceptable, because Hitler had a subjective morality. He created a subjective standard. So if you believe in subjective standards, you can't refute Hitler, Because he can just say, oh, well, I subjectively think my morality is good. And then the other person will give it, well, I subjectively think your morality is wrong. You can't have this subjective morality back and forth opinions all over the place. You need an objective moral standard. That objective moral standard is the perfect king of the world, which is Jesus Christ. Even within Islam, Jesus Christ is sinless. He's better than the Muhammad prophet pedophile that they all follow. Jesus is even perfect within Islam. He's perfect within Christianity. He's respected amongst other religions, Hindu, Buddha, whatever. And not only that, it's undeniable that Jesus existed. Even another famous atheist, which I don't know how he's an atheist if he believes this, but he believes in Jesus' resurrection. Bart Ehrman, something like that. He believes it's undeniable that Jesus died on the cross. Even an atheist. So I don't know how he's atheist, but yeah. So it's just, dude, Stephen Hawking got exposed. And there's no defending him. There's none. There's nothing you can do to take back any of your beliefs or any of your arguments that you were making to do with Stephen Hawking. He lost all credibility. Any pedophile loses all credibility, obviously, and especially to do with morality. So I think it's it's going to be obvious that Jesus is real as time goes on. We have the most archaeological evidence. We have tangible archaeological evidence of the Bible. More evidence than any other ancient writing we have with the manuscripts of Jesus. And that's the thing, like with the Quran, they try and say, oh, there's only been one Quran ever. We have the one Quran, which isn't even true because Uthman burned a bunch of Qurans, and they don't like to mention that. But if you only have one copy of something, how do you even know that's the real copy? How do you know that's the original? You don't have anything to compare it to. Whereas if you have 1,000 copies of something, and let's say from different regions, different languages, whatever, and you have one copy that differs from all the others, well, then you can cross-examine and identify that, oh, that one copy that's completely different than all these others, that's not legit. These are the legit, because they're verified through all the copies. If you only have one copy, you can't cross-examine it with anything. So, yeah, it's just like it's literally like eyewitnesses. Like, let's say somebody shoots somebody, like somebody gets shot, and they're the only ones there. It's just their word, basically. It's like, oh, I got shot. It was that guy, like whatever. Whereas if you have 10 eyewitnesses that witnessed the shooting in broad daylight, they can all verify that the story was correct. So that literally means the more evidence, the more proof you have, the more eyewitnesses you have, the more manuscripts you have, the more provable an event is. If you just have one account of history, how do we know that guy didn't just make it up? If you have thousands of accounts, all saying the very same thing, all aligning with the truth, and not only that, these manuscripts are the closest to the event that actually occurred compared to all these other crap like Plato, Aristotle, etc. It's the most true, obviously. So Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. I got more videos coming. I just had to expose this pedophile, bro. I saw that. I was just like, bro, please tell me Stephen Hawking was not on the island. Him of all people. Bro, how did he even... I don't even want to think about it. This is just disgusting to think about. God... Oh, man. I don't... Oh, man. I feel so bad for the actual victims, man. It's just so disgusting, man. I feel bad for Aisha, who was raped by Muhammad. I feel bad for all these victims, completely innocent, who were raped on Epstein's Islands by all these atheist, satanic elites. None of them are Christian. What a coincidence, because Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. He is correct. He is the truth. He sets the perfect standard. If you're an atheist, all I have to say is repent. Do not try and support these weird pedophiles any longer. Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. Jesus loves you.